Everybody, Anna Bramwoods here. I hope you're having a fabulous Monday. What's up, my friends? Okay, so today what I'm going to talk to you about is something which is close to my heart. It is when you put out learning or e-learning that absolutely makes people yawn, including yourself. So I don't know if you've ever done that, but some of us have. Welcome to the club, everybody. But what I wanted to do is share with you today the reason why I think that the corporate model actually for designing learning is broken and what you can do about it. So 2 handy tips, 2 strategies that you can use to really make people connect with the message you're trying to share. Because I think that what happens, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but you get distracted by all the things that are out there, all the shiny objects and the promises that are given to us. So first off, before I get into the nitty-gritty details of this, I have a webinar coming up, which is going to be going more in depth with the things that I'm sharing with you here. Obviously, I can't share everything on this live because that would be days and days. But for a more in-depth experience and to learn more about the things that I'm sharing here with interactive episodes, go to elearningsecrets.com. And there you'll be able to actually register for the webinar. It's happening in, it's going to tell you the specific date and remind you to join it. So if somebody is kind enough to actually type elearningsecrets.com into the comments, that would be fantastic, because then people can just click on it and I don't have to. I can't actually go in right now and type it myself because I'm in front of the whiteboard, people. So I appreciate that very much. Also, if you have any questions, guess what? Use the comments. Ask those questions. Also, what I love is when people ask questions in the comments and other people are like, hey, this is helpful, or this is another one of Anna's videos or lives that you should watch because she gets into it here. But really, I wanted to get down to the basics here because I think that we get so ingrained into the little minutia pieces of execution that we don't think about the big picture. And that's one of the things that I think has been messing us up, right? We've been really thinking about small details, which are important, but also what's happening is that we get so ingrained in those details, we rarely ever look up and be like, hey, I've been working on this single little page and interaction here, but in the grand scheme of things, am I really connecting with people? Because that's really what you want to do. And really what learning's about is persuasion. It's about getting people to believe that there's a better way and you've got it, right? So how do we do that better? So first, I just wanted to, and I don't know how it's going to work because I got this set up. Guys, my office is all set up differently, but I'm going to draw something for you here, and I have my handy marker. Woo! All right. So one of the things that happened to me when I first started designing interactive experiences for people, which is such a cool world to be in, by the way, is the fact that I was putting out stuff, and what happened is that I would put so much work and effort into making it look sweet, making it sound amazing, work on multiple platforms. All those things were there. But every time I put something out, after a while, it would kind of lose that novelty. It would just become more of the same. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up looking out into the world, trying to find new and interesting ways to kind of innovate how I was representing information, right? How I was sharing the content with my learners. How do I make it more learner centric? How do I, and there's a lot of things out there that I discovered that helped me. Some of those things were definitely how things are laid out. So the user interface. The way somebody interacts, how intuitive it is for them. They don't have to, if somebody needs huge, overlay of guidance on how to use your system, maybe in some cases you got to scale that back and say, hey, we're not teaching them software here. How come this feels like I'm teaching them software even though I'm actually just teaching them compliance stuff? So why is this so complicated? So there's some questions that I asked myself, right? And so I learned about and worked with people who are very good at that. So that's definitely something that I think enhances that experience, right? So what I'm trying to show you here actually is and you've probably seen this metaphor before. And if you have seen an iceberg metaphor in anything else other than in e-learning, please give me a yes or yeah, I've seen an iceberg before. I'd love to hear your comments, because I gotta tell you, as much as I use this thing, the iceberg metaphor I feel has been like overused. So every single place I go to, they're like, let me show you how this is like an iceberg. And I'm like, oh no, not the iceberg. And then you try and find a really cool stock photo of an iceberg that looks cooler than the other stock photos you've seen of icebergs. Anyways, that's just a rant that went sideways, but you know what I mean. All right, so what I'm trying to tell you here, and this is why I think that corporate learning is a broken system, is because we focus on the stuff that's above the water and not below the surface. So I'm going to get into what's above the water, and you'll probably be like, yeah, Anne, I'm using all that stuff. That's great. And then I'm going to talk about what's below the surface. And as we all know from the iceberg analogies that we've heard, because there's only one big iceberg that really has mattered, which is the Titanic iceberg, but we only know about it because of that awesome movie. A lot of the reason icebergs are so dangerous and so cool and used in analogies a lot is because most of the stuff that's hidden is underneath. So what you see on the top is just a small part of what makes an awesome iceberg. And that's what we're talking about here, because consider this iceberg is the learning experience. And so what happens is we focus a lot on the top part, but a lot of us miss the bottom part. And the reason I think that this happens is because the top part's pretty sexy and visible, and we get a little bit of that instant gratification. And also there's a lot of tools to help us up here, but there's not a lot down here. Now before I unveil the secrecy, I know you're all excited. You're like, what's underneath the surface, Anna? I gotta know. All right, here it is. So we talked about what makes a great learning experience. Language. To me, this one is huge, right? Still working on this. A lot of people would just improve, and I did this, improve the experience for the person if I made the language better. And language has a lot to do with not just that the words are readable and we're using the right readability, but also natural language, the way people talk, so that the thing you understand is, when you're in front of a computer all by yourself, it would be nice to have that feel like it's a conversation between you and one other person. You're not doing a speech to 1,000 people, because that's a different approach. You're actually doing a one-on-one kind of conversation. So how do you structure that language so it speaks to a single person instead of a dozen, right? Because those are considerations. So those are things that I thought about. Those are things that I learned. There's so many awesome resources now about really focusing on that. So we've got language. Here's another one that y'all probably love. Fonts. Ooh, using the right font. Using the right images. Visuals, right? Visual communication. Huge. Still working on this. What's another one? Interactivity, right? Interactivity. And if you can actually read this, because on my screen it shows up like backwards. So if you can read this, do let me know, because then I'll know. Otherwise, I won't know, and we'll never get that sorted. So one of the things then that really challenged me is when all of this was amazing, well, in my words anyways, I still felt like something was missing, because I can only be interactive so much. I can only, engage them with language so much. I can only do those things so much. And then I thought about, what is it that makes somebody stay to the end? What makes somebody care? Because one of the things that, and I learned this from my partner Ryan, he always said, he's like, whenever I start a project with where I'm designing an interactive episode, I'm always starting with the mindset that somebody's like really just has a whole lot going on in their lives, and they're saying, hey, I don't care about your stuff. Like, that's important to you because you work in that department, or your mandate is to put it out. But I got a job to do. I got things that are going on here, and without me, they won't go on. So I really don't care about it. So then how do you make that person who's already busy, who's already got stuff going on, who's already got their own problems, all this stuff, how do you make them care about your e-learning? How do you make them care about your experience? How do you get them in? Not only get them in, because all of this stuff, I feel, gets them in. They're like, ooh, this is cool, this is interesting, this talks to me, it recognizes me, it understands me. But how do you make them stay till the end and have that aha? Because that's what I'm looking for. Because really, what is learning? At the core, it's behavior change, right? And when we say behavior change, I think one of the things that we do, and I've done this, is I beat myself up. Like there's this whole like whipping thing, like, oh, they didn't become a brand new person at the end of 15 minutes, or they didn't take up a new habit. And then you try and pick up a habit and you're like, wow, this takes like 60 some days for me to actually change a single habit in my life. And I'm beating myself up because my single intervention here in the grand ecosystem didn't make a huge difference. That's not how it works. Like for me, a behavior change is somebody now who was not caring, didn't know what the heck was going on in my world. Now they're leaving it and they got this awareness. They're like, they can see now. They can see like they can see the matrix a little bit, which is really cool, because for me, then the first step is for people to actually recognize that there's something different that they didn't perceive before. That's an aha moment. For me, if I can get aha moments for people, huge, right? Okay. So how do I do this? How do I go deep? How do I conquer the iceberg? Please don't quote me on any of this. This is so cheesy. All right. So I believe underneath, one of the things that really, and this isn't coming from some like feeling thing. This is coming from me beating my head against the wall for years and years and years. By the way, if you want to learn more about that, go to elearningsecrets.com and register for that webinar, because I get into like the details of the basically not just the struggle, but the epiphanies that I had that really helped me get here, right? And it's awesome. So make sure you sign up for that. So one of the things that's happening is what is caring in essence? It's a feeling, right? It's an emotion. How do you make people feel stuff? How do you make them care? Guess what? There's a hack. It's called stories. Storytelling. That's what storytelling. When I discovered this, I went, what? I know you're thinking, but Anna, I'm not a storyteller. Last time I wrote something was in high school and I didn't get such a good grade from Mrs. Smith. It's okay, don't worry. I actually have other videos that are going to show you how to do this, because this is a pattern. This is a framework. This isn't magic. It's magic until you figure out how it works. And then the other part. So stories is what gets people invested, makes them want to care. And then at the end, what makes them engaged, the true interactivity, power of choice, the power of decision. And in the magic world of interactive episodes and storytelling, we call this agency, which is so cool. I just want to have a t-shirt made be like, do you have agency? How cool is that, right? It's agency. Agency. All right, agency storytelling. Like underneath all this, what is all this about? This is emotion. Why do we care about emotion? Because it is emotion that drives behavior change. If you don't care about something, you're not going to take steps to make it better. You're not going to take steps to change yourself. Why do you pick up a new habit? Because you feel like crap inside and you want to change something about yourself, because you feel terrible or something happened and you're like, I can do better, or this needs to change in my life. There's emotion attached to that. Sometimes it's shame, sometimes it's powerlessness, sometimes it's fear. I don't want my children to not be with me because I'm not taking care of myself. I got to quit this smoking thing or drinking thing, whatever it is, right? Now we're doing the same thing. We're trying to engage emotions to have people believe, engage in those things to make a change in their life, have an aha moment. That's what we're working towards. Don't kid yourself. You're in the persuasion, selling ideas business. You are trying to get people from a state of inertia or a state of nothing, not happening, not aware, not even aware that there's a potential here. And you're trying to sell them that outcome with your learning. It's amazing. So, how was that? Hope you enjoyed that. questions. I love questions. So post those in the comments. And also, if you think this is something that, you could actually want to dig deeper into, elearningsecrets.com. Sign up for that webinar. You're going to love it. It's going to be more of me, but more better slides. So really, I hope that you enjoyed this model. I know it's kind of a lot that I put on you, but I just wanted to really share this with you because I think you need this foundation. You need to understand how this all kind of works and why in the world we're doing this stuff at the bottom. This stuff up here amplifies people's engagement with your story. They're feeling like they're in charge of it, so that's that agency. It draws out the emotion because stories are meant to do that, so they can connect to people's motivation to actually do something. And then all this other cool stuff, UX, UI, language, interactivity, the fonts, the visuals, all that stuff. Baby, you got a fire going on down here and just pouring the gas on a fire that's already good. And then that goes 10, 100 times X because you've now amplified your message because you've set a baseline, basically that base of your iceberg really well. So I hope that was helpful, and I will see you here again tomorrow around the same time. So if you're somebody who watches my lives and you want to be around to ask questions or just, give me a hands up, hi, please feel free to join. All right, take care, friends. See you next time. Bye.